Okay. Do I start now?
As soon as you're ready.
Well, I'm going to be discussing a turning point in my life. I'm from Florida. Originally, I was born in Ireland, then when I was 3, we moved to Florida. And I was a ballet dancer going up through, no I wasn't, I played football. So eventually, I started football when I was in 10th grade. I started spring season in 10th grade, never played it before. And so I started off and I was naturally good because I was never small, I was always the biggest kid on the field. And so going through high school, I was always ranked in South Florida as the top 10 lineman in South Florida. I was always like 6 or 7. And when I went through high school, I always thought I would end up playing at Florida International or UM, because if you're in the top 10 of, South Florida linemen, you figured you'd go somewhere. And all the competition everywhere around me was always committing to some big college or really good through senses like that. But eventually, when it came to my senior year and I never signed anywhere, I was really upset. And when I would talk to scouts, they would always be upset looking at my record because my GPA was like a 2.2, barely passing. But what had really killed me was I transferred 7 times. And throughout high school, 7 transfers looks really bad on your transcripts, which at the time I didn't think of anything of it, but in retrospect was a really bad idea. And I always transferred because I always wanted to play on a better team. The team I played for I didn't like, the coaches I didn't like, so I kept thinking the grass was greener on the other side, so I kept transferring, and eventually that's just what hindered me from eventually going anywhere. So they came out with the top 10 offensive lineman signings, and I was 8 on that list. And it was Florida International, Florida Atlantic, UCF. Most of the guys wanted to stay in Florida. I don't know why, but UCF, and then the guy ahead of me went to Mississippi State. And I knew him personally, and I hated him. He was just completely arrogant, thought he should have been #1, even though he wasn't even really that good. So he went to Mississippi State, and he keeps in touch just to rub it in my face that I go to junior college and that he goes to Mississippi State. So it would be like D1, 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 SEC, which is a really high conference in college football, and then junior college and D1, D1. So, I stuck out like a sore thumb on that page. So eventually, the turning point in my life was not all that, but what led me to come to junior college in California. The turning point was more of when I arrived here. The last day my parents were here before they dropped me off in the apartment I had with 5 other kids that I didn't know. And it's kind of I don't know if any of you come from out of state, I know Keyshawn does, but it's kind of like a sinking feeling when your parents leave you somewhere. It's at like the pit of your stomach, and then it's kind of like desperate. But I promised myself earlier on that I wouldn't cry, that I wouldn't, want to go back home, because my older sister had always taunted me for being a mama's boy, because I really was. And if my mom was somewhere in the room, I was 5 feet away from her, just orbiting her. But she'd always taunted me for that. So when she went to college, she was 3 years older than me, she broke down crying when they tried leaving her at college. She told her that she wasn't going to go to college, even though she had a full ride to Simmons College in Boston. She told her that she's going to drop out and become a waitress in Miami. And so I just really prided myself on not crying, and that was like the turning point in my life. Thank you.
Good move. That's all right. We mama's boys, we'll look out for each other here. My mom died 19 years ago tomorrow. So, that pit of your stomach feeling, I know what you're talking about there, man. It's tough. All right, Dennis, let's have you next.